Hi, I'm Joey Brannon. Welcome to the Axiom Podcast. Today we have a special guest, Vince Virga. There's another guy on the call. We're not going to mention him. You've probably seen him before, but I'm here with Cameron Earhart and Vince Virga, and Cameron works very closely with Vince and his team. And so I'll let Vince. Why don't you introduce yourself, and then Cameron, you can talk a little bit about your background with Vince and how you guys got to know each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So thanks, Joey. Yeah, so I'm Vince Virga, CEO and founder of PFS Wealth Management Group. We are a private wealth management group originated in New Jersey, and then by the grace of God, ended up down in Naples, Florida in 2017, and have been here ever since. So we've got a fantastic team. All of our operations, marketing, and servicing happens out of the Naples office.
Awesome.
Awesome.
So
Yeah, I've been working with Vince and PFS for going on 3 years now, almost 3 years. And I'll say this. I know we're gonna jump into stuff, but out of hopefully none of my other clients listen to this. Out of all the clients I
your
work
secrets
with,
are safe here. We're just putting them on the internet, so don't worry.
Vince Vince is the hardest to describe. I'll put it that way. No, Vince, he's got the most charisma, the most energy. It's been, man, it's been fun working with him over the last 3 years, and so I'm excited for him to be on this podcast. We're gonna jump into some fun stuff, but yeah, he's got an amazing story. I'm excited for our audience to hear.
Great. Well, Vince, why don't we get into that? Tell us your story, your family story. Who is Vince Virga, the elusive Vince Virga? Who is he?
Well, yeah. So I am the product of two literally off the boat immigrant parents. They came here from Sicily, Italy, I guess back in 1958, and with just a few $100s in their pockets that they borrowed. And I think it was a 13-day journey across the Atlantic on on a ship. My dad and my mom didn't speak a word of English, and just had a vision of what they wanted to do in this country. Wanted to be able to contribute to the communities that they lived in, and I'm the middle of three children. I've got a younger sister and an older brother, and happily married to Camille, who I met in high school. We met in 1984 and married in 1992. We've got two wonderful children, Jeremy, who's 30, and Rachel, who's 23. She just graduated NYU Tisch. She's an aspiring actress.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
The
Believe
Wait,
me,
hold on.
many, many.
I gotta cut in there. So she's an aspiring actress. Little fun fact, most people don't know about Vince. Vince was once an actor, and he has actually been in a Denzel Washington movie. I have
Really?
the clip on my phone, Joey. I'll send it to
we
you.
we'll cut it into the podcast so everybody can experience
Yeah,
Vince's acting skills.
I had every intention. I finished my undergrad studies out in Southern California, and I had every intention of wanting to enter that industry. And now, because life took me in a different direction, well, heck, had I gotten into that industry, the three of us wouldn't be on this podcast at this very moment in time. So, but I'm living my dream of being in the industry vicariously through Rachel.
Well, I'll congratulate you on the graduation portion of that as a father who just a couple days ago got back from his orientation with an incoming freshman. So
Oh,
I'm signing up for the 8 semesters or so of what you've been through. So I'll be glad to be on the other side of it as well. Well, let's talk about your early career. Like you've got certain Cameron and I have worked with other firms that are similar to yours in terms of the industry space that you're in. You
hmm.
obviously have some unique abilities that have been responsible for you becoming the firm that you are today, and I would say, head and shoulders above what is typical in the industry. And I'm interested, like, how did that career start? What were the steps to get there, and how did you discover the talents and abilities that you have now through those roles?
Yeah. So, fortunately for me, I came from a family that were just entrepreneurially skilled. They just loved being in business. And from a young age, I was involved in various family businesses, from construction companies to bakeries to pastry shops to catering companies. You name it, our family was involved in it. So work ethic started at a very young age for me. And it's funny. Camille kind of jokes about it. She doesn't believe it, but 10. Imagine being a 10-year-old and waking up Christmas morning, not to opening up presents, but having to go fill over 1,000 cannolis on Christmas morning. That was my Christmas morning.
That's a great
That was
family
Easter morning.
tradition. Yeah.
Yeah, there was no Easter bunny. It was waking up. What we did was we kind of celebrated Christmas Eve and then woke up and went to work the next day. But what it did for me was it instilled this entrepreneurial spirit. I just felt even at a young age that this wasn't complicated. And I was fortunate and blessed through my dad and my uncle to have just kind of picked up this knack for business. And when I was finishing up my undergrad studies out in Long Beach, I was studying finance. I had every intention of having Camille move out there, but the economy. This was 1990. The U.S. economy was just suffering, and there were a whole bunch of other things going on in California, Southern California, the fires, the Rodney Kings, the S&L crisis just kind of was that debacle was happening, and banks were going belly up. So I knew that I wasn't going to have much of an opportunity to find employment in Southern California. So I came home, and that was Memorial Day weekend, 1990. And over the course of the next couple of months, I literally, the old-fashioned way, created 50 resumes and cover letters, split it up between Wall Street area, Midtown area, and literally was handing out my resume in institutional banks, commercial banks in New York City. And lo and behold, it was August, first week of August. My parents had supported me through all of this and then some. And I had made the decision that I'm like, gosh, if I don't get something happening, yeah, if I don't get an opportunity, I've got no choice. I've got to go. I've got to go work with my dad, going into construction. And I'll tell you, I was just, I don't know if prayer was prayer at the time, but maybe I was praying kind of in my own way at that time. And I literally went to the Army and Navy shop and bought myself a pair of work boots. And lo and behold, there was a message on my voice machine from the Industrial Bank of Japan, the company that wanted to interview me for a position. Joey, I'll tell you, I didn't. I went in for that interview, didn't care what the position was, didn't care what the salary was. All I asked was, give me an opportunity, give me an opportunity to prove myself, and then everything else will sort its way out. And literally, that's exactly how it ended up. I started out as a assistant Fed funds trader. And within 2 years, moved. I was invited to join kind of an elite group of lenders as a structured finance division. And ultimately, over the next 14 years or 12 years, worked my way up to being the vice president of structured finance, overseeing over $1.5 billion in assets. And then, as it turns out, my bank was getting ready to merge with two other banks. And once that was announced, I knew that I had to take control of my life and my destiny and not leave it in the hands of an employer that may not have had my best interest. So I had a lifelong dream of wanting to open up my own gourmet eatery. It was basically a culmination of all the family businesses that I had grown up working in as a child. And I wrote a business plan, and it must have been a New York Times bestseller because in 2004, I was walking downtown Jersey City, which after 9/11, and by the way, that's another story that I was directly involved with. I literally went through the Twin Towers 20 minutes before the first plane hit.
Wow.
But after that, the section of Jersey City that I was looking to open my business became Wall Street West. All of the financial services firms came over to across the river. And in 2004, I opened up the Green Cow Gourmet Market and Pizza Company, and was there and ran it and opened it from scratch. It was just four bare walls, and over the next 4 years, built it up, and we had an incredible list of corporate customers. And then two individuals come into the office. Actually, before that, how I ended up in the financial and what I'm doing now. In 2005, actually, a year after opening up, a good friend of mine whose dad was the CEO and president of a publicly traded community bank, New Jersey chartered bank, needed a set of trusting hands in the financial center. And I have to be honest with you, I just started to feel the effects of paying for Cobra and my own insurance. And I'm like, well, gosh, if for nothing else, I think I should look into this opportunity. I didn't really need to be in the restaurant full time. So that's how I literally transitioned from Wall Street to Main Street and got into personal financing, finance and financial planning, helping individuals, small businesses, and what have you. And ultimately in 2008, we had two individuals that came in that made an offer that I couldn't refuse, and we sold the Green Cow. And by the grace of God, even after the financial crisis, we still got that deal done, and haven't looked back ever since.
So you make the jump. So you went to work as this trusted set of financial hands in this other company. You sell the eatery, and then you say, okay, I'm going to go all in on the finance side at that point. What did the
Yeah.
transition
So
look
the
like?
way, again, and it kind of plays into what we're doing now and how Cameron has kind of helped me. But the Green Cow, the way I had structured it is that I didn't necessarily need to be in there full time in order for it to function.
Mhm.
I had my brother-in-law who was running it, and then Camille, reluctantly, was my bride, was also there helping out as well each and every day. So I didn't need to be in the restaurant on a full-time basis. So it afforded me this opportunity to generate some additional revenue, have all my benefits kind of covered, and enter an area of finance that was, quite frankly, new to me.
So you said a couple things I want to go back to. One was you
Yeah.
grew up in an entrepreneurial household, which I think is so I don't want to say important, but I'll say different. I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs that we talk to, and they believe that everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. And one of their biggest fears is, hey, my key employee, like at some point I might upset them, or I might not do something well, or there might not be enough opportunity, and they're going to leave, right? Because they're going to want to start their own business. And we go, well, you got to understand, like, not everybody's wired the way that you are. You're different. You're like, I don't know, a fraction of a percentage of the population. But I do think that there's a common thread with a lot of entrepreneurs, that they grew up in an entrepreneurial household. And I don't know whether that's the mystique of owning a business. Just, you realize they're just ordinary, flawed human beings who make just as many mistakes as everybody else. They just do it from a business owner seat than from an employee seat. Or
Right.
if it is, the maybe something that mom and dad are teaching them along the way, some skill sets but speak to that. Like, what role do you think growing up in the entrepreneurial household played during that early career, and then ultimately the decision? Like you said something else, which is, I knew I didn't want to leave it in somebody else's hands. And that to me has been
Yes.
a statement I've heard a lot of entrepreneurs say. But talk about the role of growing up in that household and what that means to you today.
Yeah, well, it goes back to my mom and dad, and I think it's important. And also my uncle Guy, who has been my biggest influence as an entrepreneur. But to put it into perspective, I think it's also about one's willingness to take risks. And as Cameron, and really you as well, have come to learn about me, I'm the type of guy that jumps off the high dive and worries if there's water in the pool on the way down. That's just the way I am. But I think it's important to understand, the framework of where I came from and why I'm willing to take all these risks. And I look back at my mom and dad's journey. So again, I mentioned sometime in around 1958, they moved. They came here to the U.S. Not a word of English. Grew up in a rural little village with no more than a fourth grade education. They came here with less than 400 bucks or $500 in their pocket. And over the course of my dad's life, he became one of the most well-respected general contractors in our community. There was not one person that had a bad thing to say about my dad. And a lot of everything he built still stands today. But here's the key that I think is important. Here was a man, remember what I said, less than a fourth grade education from a small village in Sicily that was literally reading blueprints just as well as college educated engineers and architects and building some of the most beautiful buildings, homes, condominiums, and shopping centers that still stand today. So that's kind of a testament of my dad's will to want to contribute, and again, that entrepreneurial spirit. So I think, for me, I took a lot of that from him and my uncle Guy, who took one concept and then just kind of built it out into various other entrepreneurial endeavors. So yeah, I would just say that that was kind of the framework for me. That I kind of believe that everything and anything is possible. I just took what they taught me and just ran with it.
Nice. Cameron, I'll put you on the spot for a second and just say, you've been working with Vince for how many years now?
Going on 3.
3 years. So, what are some of the qualities that you might pinpoint to in Vince that are somewhat responsible for what he's been able to accomplish throughout his life, but particularly in the work that you've been doing with him at PFS?
Yeah, I would say that by far the number one quality is his understanding of the importance of belief. He gets it better than any other client I ever worked with. When he believes something, he goes all in. You can't talk him out of it. You can't convince him out of it. Like, he is a freight train coming through and you better get out of his way. And then he's continually teaching his team how to have the same belief. So, hey guys, this is our vision. These are our goals. This is where we're heading. I know for a fact we are going to get there. And then that belief he perpetuates it, and it just spreads, and the rest of the team starts believing it. And so, man, the power of belief, Vince, I would love to hear from Vince, just kind of maybe, sorry, I know it's rooted in his faith, but that I would say is the main differentiator that sets him apart.
Yeah, I appreciate that, my friend, and I thank you. From a belief standpoint, I think it all starts also with respect. And, going back to the green cow, I want to, hopefully I can share the story in a few minutes, but there was a young fella, his name was Samuel. He was the product of a single mom in a very low income community, came into the green cow and wanted to work. He started off as a delivery person, cleaning person, and I saw I saw something in Samuel, and I wanted to build him up. I believed in Samuel. I believed that Samuel could contribute so much greater into the community and the world. So I kind of took him under my wing, as well as a few other individuals. But Samuel was a perfect example where I taught him how to run the pizza station, showed him how to make the sauce, showed him how to make the dough, showed him eventually how to serve and communicate with individuals and providing them value. And ultimately, what I said to Samuel was, and I say this to this day, I said, Samuel, whether you understand it or not, you now have a trade. You have the ability that no matter what happens in your life, you have the ability that eventually, when you raise a family, you'll never find yourself in a situation where you cannot support your family. Number one. Number two, I just showed you how you can literally start your own pizzeria if you so choose. And it's kind of the same philosophy I have here. As Cameron knows in our team meetings, one of the things I say to each one of my team members is I don't look down on them. We respect and love each other. And one of the things I have them try to visualize is having them look at their positions as independent entrepreneurs. And each one of their roles within the company is an entrepreneurial business. and they have to look at it from that perspective. It's not just turning, and I use the bakery example. It's not like you turn the lights on and you wait for folks to show up. You've got to do all the work in the background, preparing fresh product, marketing, branding, doing anything and everything you can to sell and prepare to sell the best possible product or service that you're selling. So that's kind of what I try to teach my team, is to look at their roles within PFS from an entrepreneurial standpoint, not just I'm an employee and this is just a job. Because then that gets back into whether or not they're a fit for our culture and core values.
Well, let's dig a little deeper there. So give us some context on how PFS operates today. What's your role? What are the other roles in the organization? Kind of describe the bigger picture. So as we get into we'll pick your brain on some of the things you're doing with the team, but give us the bigger picture.
Yeah, so fortunately for me, I first thing is I've been fortunate to be able to surround myself with mentors and friends in the industry that are where I strive to be. And they're an open book, and they're open with giving me all the guidance and all the direction to being a better leader, CEO, and entrepreneur. And years ago, probably 6 or 7 years ago, I participated in this training with one of my mentors. They called it the Rainmaker, where ultimately I would become the Rainmaker. I'd be the name, the face, the brand of PFS, but ultimately building a team where the team is running itself. And that's where we are today. And I'll say this, I mean, obviously, and Camille will say it, that where we are today would have never been achievable had Cameron not come into my life. So, because I was just winging it, and God blessed us literally to a certain point by quote unquote winging it. But I knew that it wasn't achievable. Scaling wasn't achievable by winging it. So my role now in PFS is literally the CEO, and with Cameron's help, we're focusing more on strategic planning, making sure we have policies and procedures in place, standard operating procedures in place, making sure that each one of our team members' needs are understood and fulfilled. We also are working on scaling the business. So where we are today versus 3 years ago is, I mean, and the scary but fun part is we're still in the infancy phase of our growth trajectory. So yeah, so I'm just focused on being more of a CEO, and we're talking about being more involved in the branding, the marketing, and a quote unquote authority figure again, that will probably start focusing on in the second half of the year.
So how far back does this? I want a team that's going to run the day-to-day business. I would say that is very rare. It's predominantly the case that the business owner is fulfilling some critical function in the business in terms of a day-to-day operational standpoint. And that could be sales, maybe it's sales on major accounts, maybe it's a certain piece of operations, maybe it's in a professional practice. They're the license holder, they're the one who signs off on everything. It's an attorney, an engineer, or CPA. But you made a decision that I don't want to be the bottleneck in anything that has to happen every single day in the business. So I'm going to take myself out of that day-to-day role. You mentioned that conference that you went to. Was that the seminal moment where you're like, or were you looking for that and found the conference as a way to get it? Like, what was the decision point and the piece that led up to that?
Yeah, so that was a mastermind. That was just a really intimate group of individuals within our universe of advisors throughout the country. Yeah. So I knew that's the direction I wanted to go in, but as a sole practitioner back then,
That's a
it was
pretty big mountain to
unachievable.
climb. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
want to
then
remove myself from day-to-day operations and I'm the only employee. That's tough. Yeah.
right. That was the first hurdle. And then, then I realized being a student of Tony Robbins and his Mastery University, that was another light switch that went on, is that entrepreneurs and CEOs, we want to be the sales, we want to be the marketing, we want to be the operations. And it's inconceivable that we can have a scaling company when the principal is involved in all three. So as we started to grow and I started to add advisors in, it allowed me now to get closer to that quote unquote rainmaker role where I can get myself out of it. So I would say, to answer your question, probably where I transitioned out was probably about three years ago.
Okay.
3 years ago, where I had, at least two advisors who sat in on literally every seminar and workshop that I presented, sat in on every first and second appointment and followed my sales process. So, yeah, so I would say that it was probably about 3 years ago where I stepped away. And I'll tell you, aside from all that, the biggest thing from an entrepreneur, CEO, and the head honcho was my personal ego. That was the biggest hurdle that I had to get over, was allowing my ego to be comfortable with saying that the company doesn't necessarily have to depend on me to go out and speak. It makes me feel good when that's the case, but and something miraculous has happened, and Cameron, well, you can as well, Joe, attest to this, is that literally the moment I stepped away from working in the business to working on the business, guess what happened? Our revenue just started to take off. Literally, we started to become more successful the minute I got out of the way.
So how does that happen? Because when you said the hardest thing was, and you paused for a second, I thought you were going to give a different answer. I thought you were going to say the hardest thing was getting over the financial hurdle of adding this overhead, because I was the producer. I was the one driving revenue. I'm onboarding some people now who have to take that over. But there's this intervening period now in the no man's land of how do they, and yet you didn't even mention that. And you said almost immediately your revenue took off. What was the groundwork that was laid to make that happen? Was it just serendipitous? Did you get lucky? What was the formula that allowed that to happen?
Well, number one was me getting out of the way, because if I had done my job as a leader and trained and put my team in the best position to be successful, then I should be comfortable first and foremost with that. Second thing is, having stepped away and knowing that I had Cameron, honestly, that was huge for me, because um, he gave me the clarity that I lacked. Remember, I said earlier, up until that point, not only was I involved working in the business, I was so involved working in the business that I didn't necessarily focus on the financial side of things, the operational, SOPs, or any of the other aspects of the business. That I was just still focused working in the business. So once I was able to let go of working in the business, having Cameron provide me the clarity, and I said to him, up until 3 years ago, I just felt understanding and looking at financial statements was the boogeyman. I literally, that like is my biggest kryptonite, is like, it was literally, as a business owner, was my biggest kryptonite, because, and that's why I was working in the business, is to avoid having to look in that. So those are the areas where Cameron and I kind of worked on, and then there too, just building a team to kind of support us in that endeavor, understanding the financial aspects, putting our team in a better position to understand that we have standard operating procedures. So as long as everyone on the quote unquote bus is doing their thing, then we can focus more on the scaling and the growth part of PFS.
So having been down this road, and you're 3 years down the road now, this is a very common theme with businesses that Axiom talks to. Like, I don't want to be free from the business. I want to be free to do in the business the things that I want to do. And right now I've got all these operational responsibilities. I got to get out of that. And it's not, you mentioned some challenges in terms of, I had to learn how to read my own financial statements and understand that's a key piece of understanding what's going on. And now it's not the boogeyman anymore. It's kind of like, I want all that information. And I've seen your dashboards, by the way. They are ridiculous. Like, it looks like mission control out of Houston or something. You guys chart all kinds of metrics on the revenue production side, on the financial performance side, on the advisor performance side. So you guys have done an amazing job, you and Cameron, putting together a way to view all of that financial and operational information in a way that makes sense to a business owner who's trying to see the big picture, but also be able to drill down when there's an issue and go, I think it's happening here. Here's the data that tells us we got to go fix something. So kudos on that. But what would you say to another business owner who was like, I want to do this? And you might say, well, okay, go in eyes wide open because you're going to experience, X, Y, and Z. But also, here are the things you probably fear, and this is how I let them go.
Yeah, well, I always say there's always going to be challenges. And by the way, one of the things I didn't really share with you all is we talked about taking risks. Remember what I said earlier about Camille and I and our children? We've been together since high school. And when I made the decision to come down to Florida, my family stayed in New Jersey. I think you guys, Cameron knows this. I'm not sure if you knew this.
Yeah, I remember, yes.
And it was a 7-year sacrifice that my family and I made because of this belief that I had in where I saw our family and where I saw PFS down the road. So I would say that for anyone that aspires to get out of working in the business, you have to have an absolute, unequivocal, clear vision of what it is that you want. And it has to be specific, and one of the things I talk about is that the problem with us sometimes as humans is that we're not necessarily specific when we want something. And case in point, when I used to do workshops, one of the big things people would say is, I'd say, Jim, what do you want? And Jim would say, I want more money. Well, guess what I did? I got $1 out of my pocket and gave it to Jim. And I said, Jim, your wish was granted. But that's not what he necessarily meant. So I would say that for any entrepreneur that wants to make this jump, they have to be specific in what it is they want. Number one, it's got to be absolutely specific. Number two, you have to be willing to give something up in order to achieve this goal and dream that you have. And I'm a big proponent of the Napoleon Hill book, Think and Grow Rich, and these are the necessities for having it for growth and for success. Is that for anything and everything you want, there has to be specificity down to the penny. Number two, what is it that you're willing to give up to achieve this goal and this dream that you have? I'd say those are the two primary things, and then surrounding yourself with people that are like-minded or are on the same journey or have been on that journey and are where you want to be. For me and my family, the 7 years sacrifice we made. One of the things that I tell you, Cameron's seen, we've been fortunate and blessed, really just a miracle that God blessed us with this incredible dream home that we live in. And every time we as a family gather in the backyard, and sometimes I get emotional, and I'm not the most emotional guy, as Cameron and I spoke about earlier today. But one of the things I tell the kids, and I remind Camille, is like, this is what God blessed us with because of the sacrifice we made as a family. So the final thing is that as individuals have specificity in what they want, have specificity and understand that they have to give something up in order to achieve this, be careful, because there will be individuals and circumstances that are going to want to stymie this journey that you're on. So recognize that that's going to happen. And the other thing that I'll say is that you're going to have to let go of individuals that were a part of your life that are no longer going to fit into that new phase and where you want to be life. So I'd say those are the key things that have helped me. But visualization with specificity, going through all the 5 senses is how far I've taken what I strive for.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being very pragmatic in that. I think a lot of entrepreneurs, we're like, well, what do I need to do? Right. And you're saying, well, one thing, you got to change how you think. You've got to know in your mind exactly what you're putting your hand to achieve. Otherwise, you're just going to be, who knows? You know, you'll probably wind up with $1, right, instead of what you really wanted.
Yeah.
Well, you've been working with Cameron for about 3 years now under the Axiom framework, and I'd like to hear just kind of how would you describe the arc of that journey over the last 3 years?
Yeah, I would tell you, Camille would also concur. Honestly, I tell Cameron, I'm like, I don't know what I did in life to have God bless me with him in my life. You not so much, Joe, but no, just
I've gotten used to it, you know.
I'm serious. I prayed for someone like Cameron to be in my life, both spiritually, business, but then also personally. I consider him one of my best friends and one of the people that if I were to leave this earth tomorrow, that I would trust would have my family's best interest in hand. And if God calls me tomorrow, I'm good knowing that Cameron's there to take over and help out. So, again, what Cameron has been for me is he's helped me fight through a lot of my fears. The boogeyman with the financials, guidance and clarity with scorecards and dashboards. These are things that I would have never ever thought of using or incorporating into my practice, purely because I didn't have any, didn't know where to go and which way to turn. But he's I kind of call him our kind of unofficial CFO, COO for PFS. I mean, he really has helped me in that regard, as well as just us becoming super best buds.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a ton of fun. And you can't say that about every client. So when you can't say that, it's a privilege to be able to say. It's been awesome how much you've grown. I mean, really, I consider Vince and Camille family. And Vince, he through his FMO got to go on this trip to Patagonia. This was last year, and so
yeah, I was pretty sore about this one, to be honest.
I won this spot. Camille didn't want to go, so.
And we won't get into the details. Thank God she didn't go. We'd be divorced today.
No, let's get into the details. It was an awesome trip. The details, I got to see Vince go on this week-long trip, and his luggage didn't make it with him. And so, 99.9% of people are just going to be rattled and flustered. It's going to ruin their trip. And man, this guy didn't miss a beat. He still made the most of the trip. I mean, started smelling pretty bad by day 3, but made the most of the trip. And I didn't see him with a bad attitude once. And I just felt like that trip, we got to spend so much just quality time together and just you really get to know each other on a whole new level. It was a ton of fun. And so it's been awesome getting to know Vince and Camille from a personal level, as just, feeling like family, but then we can easily flip that switch and get into business talk and like, all right, how are we going to do this? What do we got to figure out? What are we going to put in place here? So it's awesome. It's a ton of fun.
Well, I'm really, it warms my heart to hear you, Vince, talk about Cameron that way, and him being a member of our team. I know every one of his clients is in great hands. But I would say the same about the other advisors that work here. And we met, I'll just kind of go down a rabbit trail for a second, because we were introduced to you through an organization called C12, of which you're a part. I've been a part for almost 20 years now. And C12 was really instrumental. When I started C12, 2007-ish, I didn't think about business the way I think about it now. It very much was kind of that siloed mentality. I've got to get the business over here, and I've got the family, and I've got the church, and I've got my friendships. And what you have just described in terms of your relationship with Cameron, who was introduced to you, who came to you as somebody you're adding to your team. Like, he's not doing this for free. Like, you're compensating Axiom for these these services. But that relationship that develops is emblematic of the fact that you can't put these silos up. We're working with business owners. Like we've heard you earlier in this podcast talk about how passionate you are and the vision that you have and what makes you tick. And so if your business is a very important piece of your life, right, it means that we are being entrusted with an important piece of you, the same way your family is an important piece of you, same way your friendships, your other relationships. So it all just becomes this whole, and that ought to be how you describe the most important people in your business, right? It should be like, yeah, I don't know what my life would be without them, because working with them has made me a better husband, a better father, a better friend, a better child of God. So I think that what you're describing is the way we should all strive to have relationships in business, rather than put up some arbitrary fence and say, well, we're going to see each other Monday through Friday, and have a great birthday this weekend, rather than be the person who's throwing the party for them.
Right.
Well, Cameron, I want to hear just from you, like, what are some of the things that you have seen make the biggest difference at PFS, things that you and Vince have worked on that have really kind of moved the needle? What have been some of the major
the first one, and I'd love to hear Vince. I know he'll want to piggyback on this one. It's just values, and how they've really bought into core values, taking them serious, and it really has shaped and defined their culture. It decides who they hire, who they don't hire. So I would say that, is probably the first thing, and probably the main thing even still. And then number two, right behind that is 90-day priorities. They own 90-day priorities. They take them serious. They hold each other accountable. And yeah, there's always ways that we can improve and get better, but every single person on the leadership team has a 90-day priority. And if you don't complete your 90-day priority, I mean, it's not a good feeling, because everybody else is. And so I don't know how many times, it's very few, if any, that their leadership team members haven't knocked out their priorities. And I think when you have, you can get me on a soapbox with this, I'm so passionate about priorities, but when you have 7 people working on making the company better, working on the business, and they're all taking it serious, going back to what Vince is saying, they're all acting as an entrepreneur in a way, like how much better that company is going to get over time, growing on 3 years. So that's 12 times 7. Joey, you're our CPA.
84.
84 priorities that have been knocked out over the past 3 years, how far we've come over that time. So I would say that's number 1 and 2 there.
That's awesome. Vince, anything you'd add to that in terms of the things
and I'll say this, and I tell anyone that I recommend Axiom to, I'm a bottom line. I'm a bottom line kind of guy. I just need to know. I just can't wait for Christmas morning. I've got to peek in and see what the present is. And I'll tell you, the biggest hurdle I had to get over was when we first started our relationship, and we literally spent the first quarter on core values. I didn't
might be a little,
understand
maybe not quarter, maybe first month.
It was a
seemed like an
very
eternity
long
for
6
me.
weeks.
Seemed like an eternity for me, but I understood it afterwards. Again, these are the little seeds that Cameron had just kind of, and you guys have planted in my brain to understand. And once I had a better understanding that, everything and anything we do is based off of these rules, these core values that we have. Holding, I use it as an quote unquote, like an accountability checklist. I don't have to make up some cockamamie story as to why someone's not doing this or doing this or not doing this and doing this. We just go over our core values, and we're able to check off, did you live by this value? Did you live by this value? So we use the core values as an accountability checklist when one of our team members is not living, maybe potentially living up to the expectation that we have based on those core values. And like Cameron said, we also use it as a reference guide when we're hiring. Now, referencing another book, the Jim Collins Good to Great book, I think it was chapter 3 or 4. Our big thing is we're trying to find the right person for our bus. Now, whether they're sitting in the left seat, the right seat, it doesn't matter. We
Hmm.
want to first and foremost make sure that they're a good fit for the bus, and that is, i.e., the core values. And then from there, then we'll determine where their best fit will be in the organization. So that was the biggest hurdle for me initially. I'm just wanting to get to the dashboards, the scorecards, and how we can start making a whole bunch of money. But now I understood it was he taught me a little bit of patience as well.
That's really good. It's interesting. Both of you have talked about accountability, but you've talked about the tools that business owners can implement to drive accountability. And but it's two different types of accountability. The 90-day priorities speak to the accountability for performance, right? This is the things that you said you're going to do. You're behind. We're not going to finish on time. How are we going to catch up? Or you're killing it. Way to go. This is what great performance looks like. And the other is accountability to behavior in terms of how we treat people, the kind of people we are when we show up. And that's all a values conversation. And I used to say this all the time. Now Cameron works with more clients than I do. I think everybody works with more clients than I do at this point. I'm trying to get on the Vince train of, getting out of that daily operation. But I used to just think, because the same thing, Vince, what you experienced is very typical of like, when are we going to get to the actual business part of this value stuff? And I would try to encourage them to say, if we will spend the time to get this right, these will become the most well-worn tool in your toolbox. And it really is the case. You talked about when there's a difficult conversation to have, you know exactly what tool to go grab. You're not worried. I don't have a tool. I don't know how to have this conversation. It's very, very easy to just say, where were the values in this? Where did we miss the mark? Or we're having a hard conversation about whether you're going to be on the bus or not, because this is the standard for behavior. And it's right there. Like there's the word, there's the definition. It's unequivocal. Everybody knows what it means at PFS. And that's definitely borne out to be the case. When they have hard conversations, I don't know if they're easier, but they're simpler. They know what they're talking about. It's not a subjective, I see it this way, you see it that way. It's like there's a value that we both agreed to, and it's just not being lived out. So how are we going to fix it?
Yeah. And I'll tell you, the one thing that we do is, our team buys into our belief system and our values. We actually, and Linda, who's our CEO of First Impressions, has created, everyone's got a pocket size laminated card that on one side we have our values, and on the other side, our mission statement, our why, and our vision, our vision for PFS. So they literally go everywhere with our values in their pockets.
That's powerful. Cameron's had other clients. So Cameron gets very creative with the clients. We had a client that was predominantly Spanish speaking workforce. And so they had the values translated into Spanish, and then they put them on the inside door of every utility trailer that was going on a job site. So every time the trailer's opened, it's very easy to see this is what we're about, and here's what we expect in terms of, and it's what's interesting is it's not what you expect as the business owner out of that individual. It's what that individual expects in terms of how they're going to be treated and how they're going to treat everybody else.
Bingo. That's correct. Yeah.
Well,
I agree.
What's the plan? We talked about the last 3 years. Where do you see PFS going over the next 3 years?
Well, we've got some really big plans for PFS. Our goal over the next, by 2030, we'd like to be at somewhere between 600 million and $1 billion in assets under management. I think building out the infrastructure that we're kind of doing right now will allow us the ability for that type of expansion and growth. We're doing a whole bunch of things there. So yeah, I mean, I think from a PFS standpoint, we have goals of wanting to continue to grow, obviously the assets under management. But I think what we're doing also at PFS is we're kind of expanding in our services and how we portray ourselves to the outside universe. and how we can differentiate ourselves from some of our competitors. And one area that we're talking about implementing that we had shared with Cameron is functioning more like a family business office
Mhm.
structure, where it's not only about stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and financial tools, but really being and providing our clients with a more comprehensive, holistic service, and having resources within PFS to provide us specialists in the various areas. So I think that's going to be for us as an organization. I think that's going to be the biggest differentiation between us and our competitors going forward, is being more focused on running our business in that manner rather than us just trying to compete our portfolio against Morgan Stanley or Merrill Lynch's for that matter. So I think that's the one area that we're going to be focused on. I think that's going to be it'll play a huge part in how we grow and scale our company going forward.
When you're talking about that kind of growth, like that's not on you. Obviously, the vision's on you, but we don't want you to be the bottleneck to growth. So that means your team members are going to be the ones that have to go out and make that
It's
happen.
no, it's actually Cameron's problem.
Cameron-
If it doesn't happen, we're gone. He's out.
Yeah, those trips to Patagonia it's not a free lunch, buddy. You got to earn it. When we talk about if you care for your people, they will care for your clients. What's your experience been in that regard, and what does it mean for your growth going forward? Like, how are you going to care for them more, or care for them better, or take it to the next level? But I know that's something you believe in. Where do you see it fitting into your growth plans?
Well, again, my team knows that I would go through a wall. I'd take a bullet for them. And I think everyone here, I hope to think that everyone here would do the same. And that's kind of the mindset that we want to create. There's this, first and foremost, there's this passion with everyone involved in the process of wanting to have an impact in the lives of the people we serve. And when we can accomplish that, the rest takes care of itself. So that's kind of what I tell my advisors. That's what I try to convey to my team. Yeah, from a CEO, a business owner standpoint, if revenues kind of, not where we want to be, it's understandable, I hope, to have certain emotions about that. But really, our focus is to do as much that we can to have the hugest and largest impact in our clients' lives or prospective clients' lives. And my feeling is when we can do that, with compassion, with passion, with sincerity, with integrity, then my feeling is growth will be just kind of a formality. I kind of call it the cherry on the sundae. Doing the right thing, we don't have to worry about everything else. Everything else will take care of itself. And it's kind of what I tell my advisors. First and foremost, do what's in the client's best interest first and foremost. Then the PFS, and then I guarantee you that you don't have to worry about yourself because it'll all trickle down to you as well. So when you can focus on the client first and foremost, you don't have to worry about the other two.
Nice. Well, let's finish up with a few kind of quick questions. This is like the cherry on top to your analogy,
Yes, sir.
right? So what's a book that's most influenced your leadership style?
Well, it's funny that you should say. I have one right here. It's the second edition of my book.
Hey, look at that. I got to get one of those.
I'll get them for you. No, it was one of the first books I wrote. We just completed the second edition of it. New and
Congratulations.
improved. Literally, just the box just came the other day.
That's awesome.
That's our book. It's the Smart Approach, a 5-step process to life, leadership, and investing. And kind of talks about my journey, my mentors, but also a little bit of philosophical approach to how we help our clients. As a matter of fact, we're on a verge of, I'm literally finished my manuscript. I'm going to share it with Cameron over the weekend. I completed my second book, I think, and I'm really excited about it, where we're going to take verses from scripture and incorporate them into our financial services business, and how the particular verses correlate with financial planning, estate planning, legacy planning. So yeah, we're excited about that. But that aside, to answer your question, really the first and foremost, the first book that really comes to my mind was, I mentioned it earlier, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Mhm.
A precursor to that is a really easy book. It's called As a Man Thinketh.
Mhm.
And I think that is equally as important as Think and Grow Rich. I think also Good to Great is another great book that I talked about earlier. And then honestly, take your pick of any of the multitude of John C. Maxwell's books
Mm.
that have helped me from a leadership standpoint, from a growth standpoint.
Great. I mean, I'm always looking for the next book to read, and the best way I know is to ask people. So that's a great
Yeah.
one. So let's talk about real life people. Who's a mentor that's really been impactful in your journey?
Well, I mean, obviously, I've mentioned them a couple of times. My dad, first and foremost, with his commitment to family, his work ethic, and his loyalty, and his integrity. Entrepreneurially speaking, my Uncle Guy, who really just kind of just was a huge, huge influence in who I am today. I had the fortunate blessing to speak. I presented a speech at a memorial. He had passed away just actually a few months back, but he was one of the biggest influences for me in life. Uh, Tony Robbins has been a big influence. John C. Maxwell has also been a big, and I've mentored with both. I've been, we literally had personalized quarterly mentorship by John Maxwell, literally live webinars with him
Mm.
last year, and he helped me really. He's helped me a lot to be a better leader and help me understand how to grow as a human and as a company.
Awesome. When if I say legacy, Vince legacy, what does that mean to you? Maybe from
Well,
two sides,
as
personal and professional.
Yeah, personal. Well, I think they're all intertwined, but I'd say, I usually finish off my seminars, my presentations with, again, my dad. If I can be just 10% of the man my dad was, I think you all will be in great hands. I hope that I leave personally a legacy like my dad did, and even if it's just 10%, I think I've left my mark where I want people to know that life isn't that complicated. Sometimes we have a tendency to make it complicated. So I hope people see that, Vince made things look easy, even though in the background they may not have been. We have to deal with struggles, we have to deal with pains, but I'd say that a legacy of integrity, legacy of structure. Again, I don't like moving around. I've been with the same gal since high school. So I think from that perspective, I will also set an example, not only to my children, my nephews, nieces, and anyone else that sees that. Business wise, I think, again, from a business standpoint, I want to make sure whether it's prospective clients, or my team, my philosophy is that I want to make sure fanatically that when you leave or walk out our doors, that you walk out with far greater value than you had when you walked in. I want to make sure, and we actually talked about this in our team meeting last week when we were covering. Someone had mentioned me for a mission moment because of my generosity. I'm fanatical about wanting to see others succeed. I just find joy in being able to help have people see their potential, but
Hmm.
also do everything in my power to have people be successful personally, business wise, financially, spiritually. So I hope that's the legacy that I can leave.
Cameron, I want to ask you as we wrap up, what are some of the character traits that you see in Vince that speak to his ability to create the legacy he just talked about? And I'm going to ask you to be specific in terms of, I don't want to hear outcomes like Vince is very poised or Vince is very disciplined. What's the character trait that creates that outcome?
Yeah. I mean, I really, I know I talked about it earlier, but I think it does start with the belief and faith that he's able to choose. Like so, I this is gonna sound funny. I believe that belief is a choice. We can choose to believe or we can choose not to. And when someone is able to choose to believe and it becomes a reality before it actually is, that person becomes unstoppable. And that really is. I've seen that, Vince. It's encouraged my faith in so many ways. It's encouraged my belief in so many ways. He's challenged me at times with it. So I think that is where it starts. And I mean, that goes back to his faith as a Christian, as a believer, that belief. So I think that's been a huge one. And then outside of that, all of this I would say stems from his faith in Jesus. Outside of that, it really is his generosity and his humility. So I mean, yeah, there's 100 different characteristics I could go to, but the generosity and humility have led, I believe, to, alongside this belief that he has, to the success that he's experiencing and the success that we all three know he will experience. It's rare to find someone who is humble, who is generous, sometimes to a fault, and who has the belief and the drive that Vince does. So when you package all that up and throw it in a Sicilian New Jerseyan, man, that's that's an unstoppable force.
It's a powder keg of success waiting to happen.
Exactly.
Well, Vince,
it's just a powder keg. It's just a powder keg.
All of this takes energy, takes time. How do you recharge? What's the thing that puts gas back into your tank?
Well, here's the one thing that working on the business versus in the business has allowed me is a whole bunch more freedom and time to focus on my bride, focus on my children, focus on my faith, focus on me and my body. As you all know, I just recently completed. I could, 4 years ago, I couldn't even do a 3 mile walk. I could care less about doing a 3 mile walk. And just last month, I completed my first full Ironman.
That's awesome.
Congratulations. So that, and just looking back, sometimes again, I look at it no different than just going to work. That day was longer than I wanted it or expected it. But I woke up, I'm like, I got to go to work today. So it turned out to be a very long work day. And I was fine with it. But so what I do is I participate in a lot of endurance sports. I do a lot of triathlons. I do Ironmans, half Ironmans. I thought I was going to retire from doing any more Ironmans or any more triathlons or any more endurance sports. And 3 weeks later, this is one area that Camille almost went Jersey on me. I signed up for two triathlons, the New York Marathon, half Ironman. I'm doing a 50-mile trail race, running race in Texas in February, Valentine's Day. So that'll really excite
perfect.
her.
Yeah.
Doesn't know about
Man. And then I think
love all
I'm
this
going to
quality
do
time
another-
you're describing. You just finished talking about pouring into your bride.
And then I think I'm going to do another full Ironman October 2026.
I could have told him he wasn't gonna retire. I mean, that was such a.
He's got a taste of it now. It's
And I'll tell you, for me, it's an outlet, and I'll tell you, honestly, when I had this conversation with Camille, it was a little tense, and I'm just telling you, the Holy Spirit came out, and I think I told Cameron this story. I'm like, Camille, you don't understand. The reason why I do these things is to challenge myself. Thankfully, I've got the time to be able to train and do these things. But more importantly, I make things, like I said earlier, things seem so simple and so easy, but in the background, I'm stressed like it's nobody's business. And it's through these outlets that I allow myself to think more clearly, to come up with ideas, to come up with strategies, and to look at things a lot more clear. So I use this as an outlet, not only to kind of work through some of the obvious, strains of being a CEO and having a responsibility for a team that depends on you, but it's through these efforts that I have my outlet. So yeah, that's kind of how I work through a lot of things, is through these endurance sports.
Just to attest to that, I've probably received a dozen phone calls over the last 2 years where I answer, and it's just Vince like panting on the other side, like out of breath, like, hey, I'm running. I just had an idea. Okay, let's talk about it. What do you got?
Yeah,
I
and
love
then
it.
now, and a lot of times it's with the Florida rainy season where it's raining, torrential, lightning in the background. Where these thoughts are still coming. I'm like, I got to get them out because my brain, once it's out, it's out, and
Uh,
unless I verbalize it, it's like I'll
I
forget.
thought you were going to say, I got to get them out in case I get hit by lightning, and then they
That
disappear
too,
forever. But,
that too.
well, Vince, thanks for giving us such a good chunk of your day. It's been,
Yeah.
I'll say, I'll speak for myself. It's been a pleasure to get to know you in a lot of ways vicariously through the stories that Cameron brings back and shares. And the relationship that you guys have is special. It really is. And it's a great thing to see that blossom. And it's a great thing to see the effect that it's had on you personally, on your team, on Cameron. I think it's the way this ought to work. So this has been a great time to let some other people see what that looks like.
Well, I appreciate it, Joe. People will say God works in mysterious ways. I actually say no, God works in definitive ways. And it was through, I kind of look back and, how all of our chapters of life are all written. And I look back at C12 and even at C12, prior to C12, I wished for a C12 to be a part of a C12. And there it is. And through that C12 universe, you guys came into my life. So, it's really good to rewind and look back on how God has written our stories, and I'm super jacked and super excited about the future chapters in our lives together.
We are too. Can't wait to hear
Yeah.
what the next 3 years look like.
I love you both. Sorry, Joey, I love Cameron a little bit more.
Like I said,
No, I love you
I've
both. I
gotten
love you
used to
both.
it. Well, thanks for joining us. There will be a leadership guide that will be in the show notes to this podcast. It's going to have some of the takeaways that Cameron and I took from our conversation with Vince, some practical wisdom, some practical advice. If you like the podcast, please subscribe, like it, pass it around to your friends. Download the leadership guide. When you do that, you'll get the future leadership guides for all of our other podcasts. In case you miss an episode, you won't miss out on the content. And we will see you
Joey,
back.
one last thing.
Yep.
If
Yes.
any of your listeners and watchers, I'll be more than happy. If anyone wants a copy of the book, my compliments. I'll cover shipping,
Okay.
and it'd be my gift to your listeners.
That's awesome. We will set it up so that we can collect the information, get it to your team,
Yeah.
and we'll make that happen. Thanks, Vince.
Perfect.
That's awesome.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you back next time.
See you guys.